What's up, y'all? Dakota Frandsen here. So,
What happened?
I had a couple different ideas for this bout, and one of them, which heavily relied on being able to maneuver weather patterns. The other, well, the risk assessment was deemed a little bit too great.
What do you mean? What do I mean?
Because, well, there's possibly, I was informed by my law enforcement contacts that the area in question for that one, the particular jaunt I had in mind, apparently that area in question is being monitored for a potential serial killer.
It's a serial killer.
And I hope you're ready.
In shadows and silence, the truth starts to breathe. A whisper of pain, a memory beneath. The broken, the brave, the voices unheard. These stories of mine, written in scars and in words. Walked through the fire, I've drowned in the flood. I've spoken with angels and tasted their blood. From haunted old houses to war-ridden lands, the echoes remain in the lines on my hands. Not all tales are meant for the light, but even the dark ones deserve to survive. These stories are mine, they shatter, they shine, in madness and mercy, in chaos divine. The cursed and the blessed, the truth and the lie, they all make me whole. These stories are mine.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at a really fascinating case. We have a detailed field assessment report, plus an AI analysis to go with it.
And this one is from the summer of 2002, an alleged extraterrestrial abduction.
Exactly. And our mission here is to synthesize that initial, just impossible incident with the decades of personal fallout that followed.
It's a heavy one.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this. We have a 6-year-old boy. He vanishes from his home in Jerome, Idaho, overnight.
And then just reappears 30, maybe 40 miles away at his grandparents' house in Murdoch, which was completely secured.
That's the core anomaly right there. That impossible physical relocation is what we have to wrestle with.
And the initial contact, according to the report, was just a classic sensory shock.
What are we talking about?
An intense blue light, sort of electronic hum. And the subject, the boy, he says he saw 3 of the classic gray entities.
Wow.
They apparently induced a temporary paralysis in him, but they also sedated his mother and his infant sister who were in the house.
So they neutralized the environment. And his exit from the house was, well, it was rapid, levitated, supposedly through a closed window or even the roof.
Yes, taken aboard the gray vessel for some kind of examination, but then the whole narrative just shifts dramatically.
This is the intervention part.
It is. He hears a distinct female voice promising to help him, and right after that, there's a violent impact to the gray ship.
Like it was hit by something.
Exactly, and that's when rescue personnel arrive. Humanoids, the report says, in these specialized, bright blue suits, they secure the grays.
But the boy's focus is on one figure in particular.
Right, a female, consistent with what you might call the Nordic alien archetype, described as very benevolent with these striking, large green eyes.
And here's where it gets, really interesting for me, because we have this piece of pop culture data.
The Sailor Moon reference.
Yeah. He compares her appearance to a character from Sailor Moon.
More Sailor Moon for me.
I mean, how do you even weigh that against all these other highly specific technical details?
I think it's a psychological anchor. It's a reference point for a young mind trying to process something, completely indescribable.
Makes sense.
So this benevolent entity, she transfers him to a second, smoother craft. There, he sees these fascinating holographic displays of human biology.
And then he gets what the report calls a cosmic transit.
Yeah, a glimpse of Mars, Jupiter, just this incredible view.
But that relocation is still the sticking point. I mean, we're talking about a 6-year-old boy spontaneously crossing 40 miles and the Snake River Canyon.
And getting inside a locked house. Multiple layers of security.
You can just throw out the idea of a human accomplice.
Yeah.
So the question is, how did they get him back?
Well, his return was explicitly negotiated. He was upset, didn't want to go back to his immediate family, so the Nordic entity proposed a compromise.
The grandparents' home, the safe place.
It's a safe place. He recalls being levitated through a closed second-story window. 0 forced entry, just gently placed in the room.
And the induced sleep.
Came from a kiss on the cheek and then pressure applied to his forehead with 3 fingers.
This just defies physics, and the UAP radar analysis actually backs that up, doesn't it?
It does. The event is classified as anomalous with 85% confidence. It received a high Frandsen rating.
A stage 7.
Stage 7, yes, which specifically defines a high probability abduction event. And we even have outside corroboration, a new fork report from that same night.
From who?
A couple near Twin Falls. They saw an erratic UFO and reported missing 2 entire highway exits. Suggests a time or location displacement right in that same geographic area.
This story's already wild, but when you trace the source of the report itself, you get a massive insight. The person who authored this field assessment, the man who later designed the whole UAP radar system, is Dakota Frandsen.
He's the subject.
He's the 6-year-old boy.
And that just changes everything. The spot where he reappeared, that bedroom, his own team later identified it as a nexus point.
A nexus point. So what does this all mean?
It means the location connects that physical event to the long-term psychological phenomenon. It moves this from a stage 7 abduction into a stage 9, which is about sustained, highly personal relations.
And the most significant relational anomaly is this recurring entity of a young girl.
Yes. At age 12, Frandsen attempted suicide. And a crying little girl who looked uncannily like a female version of him appeared and intervened. She pleaded, "Daddy, please don't do it."
And she appears again.
She does. At age 15, right before his grandfather died, in that exact same nexus point room. The speculation in the report is that she might be his daughter from, say, a concurrent timeline, a parallel life.
So we started with an impossible physical relocation, and we ended with a decades-long emotional psychological relationship.
The physical evidence shows something happened, and all the events that followed show it wasn't random, it was targeted, relational.
Which leaves a pretty big final thought to chew on.
It does. So here's a question to consider. If the subject's identity was kept out of the initial AI analysis, does the emotional depth of all this, the little girl, the lifelong connection, suggest that some of these UAP phenomena are less about general surveillance and more about long-term, specific, maybe even genetic relations with key human bloodlines? It certainly makes you think about the scope of all this in a different way.
So, I had a couple different ideas for this bout, and one of them, which heavily relied on being able to maneuver weather patterns. The other, well, the risk assessment was deemed a little bit too great because, well, there's possibly, I was informed by my law enforcement contacts that the area in question for that one particular jaunt I had in mind, apparently that area in question is being monitored for a potential serial killer hiding out in the area. So, and recently, within the last couple months, there have been a number of shootings, all believed to be drug and gang related. So, situations where a bigger guy like me, who's has a little bit of a law enforcement background, might have to be a little bit more vigilant.
Who shot you in the ass? Who? That who will be you? Me? I shot you? Yeah.
So, and the other, well, I was planning on taking a little trip up to where I personally had a Sasquatch encounter. But, again, weather patterns were not necessarily going to go into my favor even though I do know how a rig that's a little bit more in line with traversing that type of terrain, it's more of a matter of my own personal safety. So, what is the new backup plan? Well, currently I am in Jerome, Idaho. I am looking into a witness report that is over 20 years old of a possible abduction. And why does this particular case concern me? Well, those of you who know my story, you'd be interested to hear that I may have found a new eyewitness into my own abduction. And for those of you who don't know the story, let's drop in because it's going to get interesting. Now, I have agreed to meet up with this witness in private. They are aware of my media presence and don't feel comfortable being on camera. I said, fine, no worries. We're just going to talk. And with this conversation, my plan is to simply observe for signs that they are just being genuine. Observe for signs of intentional misdirection, meaning that they are intentionally trying to bullshit me and waste my time. And go from there. So, I'm on location, and I might stop to get a little something to eat because I have not had breakfast yet. And once we get back out on the road, I'm actually going to try and retrace part of the route where a craft was sighted. Going from where I disappeared from to near where I reappeared. I have a full explanation about that story here in a sec for the newer members of the audience. So stay tuned. This might get interesting.
Yeah, well, don't take too long, Ray.
Unfucking believable. I gotta hate my people.
What happened? What happened?
Someone literally just tried to jack me.
What?
Someone literally just started trying to scout my car while I was still inside, going through some information. Someone just tried to jack my car. People wonder why I get pissed off so much. Anyway, so, situation. The client. I'm a little skeptical of the alleged eyewitness. Just,
What's wrong?
they seemed too on edge. Like they knew I was profiling them.
I hate profilers.
Some of you might say, "Oh, Dakota, you're a big guy. You're intimidating." Yeah, I know, but still.
Scary, scary man.
Scary for you.
And I've been at this game long enough to know the difference between someone who's just genuinely nervous, has a nervous demeanor because they're talking about this type of stuff. Because I get that way too. I completely understand. There's still a little bit of a taboo around this.
Definitely a lot to process.
Kind of subject, so I understand. I get it. But in the same light,
Are you sensing anything right now?
I don't know. I'm gonna start making the drive to get a little bit further on scene. I got this got a suspect's vehicle marked, photographed, with license plates. So. Alright. On the road.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing a really necessary follow-up.
We have to.
Last time we looked at a single, truly anomalous alien abduction report. And the key thing was, it was rated with an 85% confidence score by an AI analysis tool.
And that 85%, that's our jumping off point. It's the starting gun for this whole dive, really. We can't just stop at one event.
No, impossible.
If even a handful of these reports have that level of reliability, we have to look at the bigger picture. So today, we're zooming out from that single data point. We're going to examine the full, sprawling, often contradictory scope of the entire abduction phenomenon.
Decades of it.
Decades of narratives, psychological theories, the deep governmental entanglements, and all the diverse theories of origin.
Exactly. So our goal for you is pretty ambitious. By the end of this, you won't just understand the details people claim happened, but the entire cultural mythos around it.
And the competing mechanisms behind it all.
Right. Is it in the mind? Is it state secrecy? Or is it something else entirely? Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the anatomy of the experience itself.
So when the foundational researchers, groups like CUFOS, first tried to categorize all this, they found a surprisingly consistent narrative structure.
A core story.
A core story. It's defined by the person being taken against their will, by what they describe as non-human entities. They're transported somewhere. A ship, another place.
And then they're subjected to some kind of examination or communication.
Right. And what's crucial here is the memory. Sometimes it's conscious, but very often the full memory has to be recovered, a lot of times through hypnosis. That implies there's some kind of memory suppression built into the event.
And the physical side of that story is it's incredibly consistent across reports from all over the world. Take the ascent, for example.
The transition.
The transition from their bed or their car to the craft. They report being levitated or floating, sometimes right through solid objects.
Walls, closed windows, ceilings.
Yeah. Or they describe rising up through this, a beam of light or a tunnel that just delivers them inside. The physics of it, it's just one of the most striking parts.
And then once they're inside, that's when you get to what's called the examination phase.
This is the central part of the trauma for many.
Absolutely. It's almost always described as non-consensual medical procedures. And the reports consistently focus on sex and reproductive biology.
Yeah, there's a hierarchy, isn't there? The entity in charge is often different.
That's a key pattern. The one giving the orders, let's say, is often taller or described as a completely different species than the smaller beings doing the actual procedures. It implies a clear chain of command.
So these procedures, they don't just end with a physical exam. Reports also talk about these complex post-exam things designed to manipulate their memory?
Manipulate perception, memory, emotion. You see reports of imaging.
Where they're forced to watch screens with scenes designed to provoke certain feelings.
Exactly. Then there's envisioning, where images are projected directly into their mind, like a direct neurological download.
And the weirdest one, staging.
Staging is fascinating. The abductee is placed in a complex, almost illusionary scenario, acting out a role, like they're an actor in some bizarre, non-physical play.
And what's left behind when they're returned? The after effects are dramatic.
They are. The statistics from people who identify as abductees are stark. You have something like 80.8% reporting flashbacks or nightmares.
And the missing time?
Missing time.
Right.
76.9% report amnesia, a huge block of memory just gone. And then on the physical side, you get the unexplained bleeding, bruising, scratches.
So a physically traumatic, memory-suppressing experience, but how does that square with the psychological explanations?
Well, that's the critical link, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mainstream science rejects the literal story, of course,
right.
But psychiatry absolutely acknowledges the intensity of the experience. Claimants often present as totally sane, normal people, but the experience itself aligns perfectly with psychological research on dissociation.
Dissociation. Can you break that down?
It's a symptom, really. A loss of connection to your thoughts, your memory, even your body. It includes things like depersonalization, feeling detached, and memory disturbances, which accounts for the amnesia.
The missing time.
Exactly. The experiences are powerfully real to the person, even if the stimuli are internal. The consistent abduction narrative just provides a cultural framework for these deep psychological stresses to latch onto.
A compelling argument. The mind uses a shared story to process trauma. But Let's jump into that story, because the subculture that's grown around this has an incredibly detailed mythos, an entire cast of characters.
Oh, absolutely. And they're not just nameless figures. These are specific alien types with allegedly very specific roles and motivations.
So there's a clear hierarchy in these narratives.
A very clear one.
Yeah.
And the ones encountered most frequently, let's call them the boots on the ground, are the Greys.
Small, 3 to 5 feet tall, big heads, those huge slanted black eyes.
That's them. But the prevalent theory among researchers in this field is that the Greys aren't the masters here. They're often described as artificial, like biological robots.
Worker drones.
Worker drones, grown in tanks. They're seen as convenient frontmen to manage the abduction process, keeping their superiors hidden from view.
Okay, so if the Greys are the drones, who's management? The narrative points to the reptilians or the Dracos.
Allegedly commanding the entire infrastructure. And the descriptions are distinct. Humanoid, but with greenish-brown scaled skin, bony ridges on their heads, vertical slit pupils.
And their supposed agenda is, it's huge. It's not about science.
No, it's a theory of cosmic control. The claims are sprawling, that they manipulate human elites, global finance, promote militarism, scarcity.
To keep us divided and controlled.
Precisely, and the claim goes deeper, that the Alpha Draconians created the primate race, which was then genetically modified multiple times to create us, Homo sapiens.
So this narrative frames humanity as a managed resource.
A project. Essentially, yes, it's a complete alternative theory of human history.
And layered into this, you get the mantids.
The mantids are highly mysterious. Insect-like, very tall, 6 or 7 feet, triangular heads, those same large, slanted eyes. They show up in the most sensitive parts of the abduction.
The DNA manipulation parts.
Yes. They're almost always associated with intensive DNA study, often working right alongside the reptilians in these hybridization programs.
So we have the drones, the generals, the DNA techs. And then you have the complete opposite. The Nordics.
The Nordics are the inverse. They are characterized by direct, voluntary contact. It's a sharp contrast to the trauma of the Greys.
And they look much more human. Tall, blonde or white hair, blue or green eyes.
And they exude a sense of serenity, of compassion. Their whole mode of interaction is different. They don't kidnap, they converse, they teach.
About what?
Big ideas, philosophical, spiritual messages, human ascension, consciousness, cosmic brotherhood. They function as these profound figures of hope in the mythology, a direct counterbalance to the fear delivered by the Greys.
So you're left with this incredible split. Consistent, powerful stories. One side offering hope, the other manipulation.
Which brings us to the core conflict. Why do these claims even exist? The explanations are on totally opposite sides of the fence. Are we talking about psychology in myth, or are we talking state secrets and a hidden reality?
Well, from the mainstream scientific view, the answer is clear.
Right. It's not literally happening. But again, we can't ignore the people. Social scientists see these detailed narratives as modern myths.
How so?
They provide a framework for coping with existential anxiety, mistrust in institutions. I mean, if the world feels chaotic, maybe it's less scary to believe some secret non-human force is in control than to believe no one is.
A coping mechanism on a grand scale.
Yes, but that exists right alongside a very real history of documented government secrecy and disinformation around UFOs.
The Cold War entanglement.
Exactly. The claims of aliens became the perfect cover story for intelligence communities.
And we have documented proof of this. The Air Force used agents like Richard Doty to feed UFO researchers fake information.
All the time. Disinformation campaigns like Project Serpo, that wild story about an alien exchange program.
Which was likely a cover for something like, what, stealth aircraft development?
Or advanced drone tech. It's a classic intelligence tactic called a limited hangout. You admit a small, plausible truth, something is flying around, to hide a much bigger secret. We're testing something revolutionary.
And this gets injected into the abduction narrative itself, the idea of screen memories.
Exactly. Abductees might be given these complex, programmed memories to portray a false, maybe more benign picture of what really happened to them.
Which brings us to the hyperdimensional model.
Right. The theory that these entities, the Greys and reptilians, aren't just operating in our physical reality.
They exist in other dimensions, etheric or astral realms, beyond normal perception.
Yes. So the abduction isn't a physical kidnapping in a nuts and bolts ship. It's a manipulation of consciousness. And in this model, their stated purpose science, hybridization, is just a cover.
A screen memory for their real agenda.
A screen for a much less noble agenda.
And this is where we get into the idea of louche.
The harvesting of life force energy, essentially emotional vampirism. The theory posits that these entities feed on the energy generated by profound negative human emotions.
Fear, terror, pain.
Exactly. And the grays in this model are just siphons, tools through which reptilians or mantids can sloop up this potent negative energy. The trauma is then covered with the screen memory of a spiritual experience, so the person doesn't understand they've just been farmed.
This all brings us back to today and this paradox of government transparency versus secrecy.
It's a total paradox. You have official reports now from the ODNI, ARO, NASA.
Right.
They all confirm unexplained UAP cases.
But they firmly conclude there's no substantiated evidence of anything extraterrestrial. They blame sensor errors, misidentification.
Or classified U.S. programs. Meanwhile, you have whistleblowers and congressional testimony telling a fiercely contradictory story.
Alleging that the most sensitive UAP info is being illegally withheld from Congress, from the public.
And the reason cited is always national security. You don't want to broadcast a major military vulnerability. You don't want to discuss a problem that your defense apparatus has no solution for.
Or worse, a problem that shows our most advanced weapons are penetrable.
And what's concerning is that, according to the sources, these phenomena are getting, quote, increasingly brash.
They're not hiding.
Not at all.
Yeah.
There's a clear historical and current link to our most sensitive military sites, our nuclear assets, Department of Energy facilities. They've even demonstrated the ability to interfere with nuclear readiness systems. This has moved beyond psychology into a systemic national security problem.
So after this whole deep dive, what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've gone from psychological dissociation to intergalactic hierarchies, state-sponsored disinformation.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It is. The phenomenon is operating on all these levels at once. It's a deeply personal, psychological reality for people. It's a modern myth. And it's a source of contradictory, highly politicized data tangled up in state secrecy.
The gap between what's known, what's believed, and what's admitted is just.
Yeah.
It's profound.
Which is why the abduction phenomenon forces you to confront a bigger question than just, are aliens real?
The question is, what is reality itself?
Exactly. Some of our sources get into these esoteric models that suggest our physical reality is a kind of world dream, a shared construct. And if that's the case, the presence of these non-human entities, physical or not, raises the ultimate question.
Are these abduction narratives just the human mind processing its own fear?
Or are they intentional tools used by hyperdimensional forces to manipulate the very fabric of our shared reality through fear, through a kind of engineered spiritual sterilization? That's the cosmic perspective you have to consider.
What's up, y'all? So, finally found a decent spot to try to just sit down, relax, and discuss things. So, I still can't fucking believe somebody literally tried to jack me around while I was still in the fucking car. People wonder why I say I need to be prepared. Because I seem to run into shit no matter where the fuck I'd go. Oh well. Is what it is, right? Assholes be everywhere. So, right now, I'm sitting in Wally's Park in Myrtle, Idaho. So, some of you may know, who follow me for a while, this town and I have a lot of history. I did grow up out here. And needless to say, this little town in the middle of bumfuck Idaho, for lack of a better word, it actually holds a lot of history for me, which I think, after I get some food in me and some drink that I'm having my phone propped up on right now, I will take a little bit of a walk around, just kind of show you a couple of the nearby landmarks. Because, like I said, the original plan for this little jaunt was canceled due to weather. And I'll probably have some of my dash cam footage to show that even just going through areas that have been touched by snowplows got a little bit squirrely. So that's always fun. So as the details have probably been shown already, my abduction, honestly, it took me years just to admit to it, to understand what actually fucking happened. And even today, even as I've collaborated with some bigger names out there to try to understand this stuff better, to explore a little bit more, it's still hard for me to really wrap my head around. Now, I'm not going to pull up the location just yet where I turned up. I said just yet. Because if I remember the schedule correctly, about the time y'all see this broadcast, I don't have it scheduled that far out yet. About middle of March, let's just say. I'm going to be staying out here for about 10, 11 days. And depending on how much the weather decides to cooperate, we're going to try to do turn my, what's essentially a favor for a family member into a UFO watch while I'm out here. Middle of bumfuck nowhere, minimal light pollution, middle of March, so weather will be a little bit more cooperative than it usually is about this time of year. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. So, anyway, I got distracted there. At the time of my abduction, I was about 6 or 7 years old. I went from the house we lived in Jerome, which I would have shown y'all, but it's occupado, and yeah. Like I said, the witness, I have my doubts. I have my doubts about their legitimacy. Something just didn't sit right. I don't know. Maybe they were associated with that dumbass that tried to jack me. Oh well, I got their names, their faces, and license plates memorized and logged. So, they go to cause me problems again. I'll be ready for them. The best thing I can trust right now is what I remember. And going off of scientific basis, memory is not the most reliable asset, in spite of what some parties try to say. And mind you, I'm almost approaching 30, so we're going over 20 years. Which some speculated may have made me part of a 20 and back. I don't think so. Because, or maybe, I don't know. Certain details I'm still trying to sort through, and I don't, because I have an actual investigative background, unlike most people involved in this stuff, I don't like to confidently say this is what, unless I have some sort of evidence. And I don't. I'll say it. I don't have a whole heck of a lot. Anytime I try to ask my mother about the situation, she just kind of, oh yeah, that was weird, then switches the subject immediately, like something about that day. I don't know. And yeah, I had a baby sister who's gonna be turning 24 this year. She was like 1 back then, and even if she were capable of having some sort of physical memory of that time frame, how much she actually was able to comprehend about what happened is one thing. Second thing is, my sister is fucking blind as a bat. It's true. I'm not saying that. Yeah, it's a little rude how I said it, but it's the facts. She has been blind, pretty much legally blind since birth, and kind of figured something was up when she got hit. Yes, she hates us to tell the story, but we kind of figured something was up when she got hit by a car that was parked. So, when she was little, it wasn't until she was about 5 years old that we actually managed to get her into glasses. So,
This is where it happened.
anyway, that's a little side story. And my grandparents, again, they remember that day, but they just kind of wrote it off. Well, my grandmother, my grandfather, who was involved with it, who found me the following morning, he's passed away for, God, almost 15 years now. In fact, it's going to be coming up just past 14-year anniversary of his death this previous December. So I don't have much to go on, and currently with the cloud cover, I am not confident in potentially seeing any craft. And still, I still want to try to find that couple that filed that New Fork report. Hell, they could be divorced for all I know. They could be dead for all I know. I'm not even sure if that report actually lines up. It's just, I remember it being about summertime. I woke up, I remember being asleep in my bed in Jerome, having what looked like alien Grace come grab me, silence my mom, silence my sister, take me up into a ship.
Stop! Wait!
Hey y'all, I wanted to just interrupt here real quick because this particular frame that I'm showing, that I'm going to be showing here on screen, this actually provides a very crucial context to this report that potentially follows up with my abduction. Now, let me just get it pulled up on my end so I can see what I'm on. See, from the angle this was shot, right? This is a screen grab from my dash cam going from Jerome into Murtaugh, which is not just like a straightforward route. Damn near every way that you could potentially go between these two cities by car or by walking, if you were crazy enough to make that walk, requires crossing a bridge somewhere or trying to commit what evil can, evil cannot. So, this particular frame here, going to the left, from the angle this was shot to the left, that's towards the south, where the craft was said to be heading, towards the mountains. Whereas you face towards the right, that would actually take you towards Twin Falls. It is within this specific area where the craft was spotted. In fact, I have the report pulled up right here. This was in August of 2002. Exact date is not estimated from the couple because it was about 10 minutes later. I was like, not 10 minutes, 10 years later that they actually reported this. They believe it was about 15 minutes. 2 observers, and they believe it occurred roughly at 11 o'clock at night. So, this is the report as it is on the NUFORC website, okay? In August of 2002, my husband and I were on the first leg of our honeymoon trip. We left Seattle in the morning, and around 11 p.m., we decided to look for a motel in Twin Falls, Idaho. We saw road signs indicating that Twin Falls was a few miles, so we began looking for the exit, and we looked, and we realized that we had driven way too far, and must missed it somehow, so we turned around and headed back the way we come. Ahead of us, we saw something that appeared first to be a plane in the distance, but the flight pattern and speed seemed off. The light came close enough for us to see the underside of the object, and we both knew instantly it was a UFO. The lights on the underside were rotating. The object never got close enough for us to determine its size. We parked on the side of the road as we watched the object move across the sky and disappeared behind some mountains. Then we got in the car and continued to drive towards Twin Falls. It turns out we had indeed missed Twin Falls. We had also somehow failed to see 2 exit signs. We weren't paying close enough attention at the time, so I'm not sure if we were missing time, but we could never figure out how 2 people who were looking could fail to see 2 exit signs. I actually want to add a little bit of context because you kind of see it in the videos that I shot, but obviously it's dash cam footage, so the angle's a little bit distorted due to what's called a fisheye lens. These signs, they're right there along the side of the road. Given the position of those 2 exit signs coming across that highway that they would have driven along, would have placed them practically dead center between Jerome and Murtaugh, roughly in this very area. And if I'm understanding the directions that they reported the craft taking, right? Because this is, again, in this particular image that I'm showing on the screen, towards the right is Twin. Towards the left is towards Murtaugh, towards the mountains. This would have been roughly where they were. There is not really any major developments to this day. These 2 exits that go into Twin Falls, one will take you down what will eventually become Addison Avenue, and one will take you down what's Pole Line. For rough landmarkers, the IB Prime Bridge, I noticed the deep dive mispronounced it. The IB Prime Bridge, and Costco and Walmart would be on the Pole Line side, whereas a Kroger store and a few residents would be on the Addison Avenue side. Now, in this report, you cannot necessarily rule out that sleep deprivation, just because of how late at night it was, or being distracted by the potential side of a fucking UFO, that accounts for them missing the signs. It is actually more common, happens a lot down that stretch of road, just because of I believe they call it highway hypnosis, where you're driving along for so long that you just kind of start zoning out. And being that this couple, they were on their honeymoon, chances are they were not familiar with the area, so a lot of people end up getting hurt because they're not, in this area, because they're not familiar with the surroundings, and they get to be a little bit too confident. It happens a lot. So, granted, this report goes back in 2002. This is 2026 as I am recording this. Obviously, there's a lot more development since then, but those stretches of road are practically the same. So, I just wanted to add that little note here. Back to the main presentation.
About time. See, I'm sorry, the audio.
Welcome back to the show.
And that ship got attacked. Assets that identified themselves later as being from Galactic Federation of Worlds saved my ass, took me on a little trip. Then when I asked, I didn't want to go back home. They wanted to bring me back. I said I didn't want to go back. I didn't feel safe. And at the time, considering what I remembered was that when I was screaming, when it happened, I was screaming for my mother to help. She was the only adult. She physically saw me being taken, but with a wave of their hand, they just knocked her back asleep. And whether or not she has any physical memory, I don't know. She's going to automatically assume that it was just some fucked up dream. Because she was convinced. Now, there was a whole messed up situation that was going on involving my father at the time that put her into this mindset. But at the time this occurred, she thought I was taken by my father. Here's the thing. Unless there was a very weird parental kidnapping situation, which does happen, I'll admit, it does happen. Why would my father drop me off with the parents of his ex? The logic doesn't line up.
No, it doesn't.
And when I get a chance to get home and get settled, I'm gonna run the story through an artificial intelligence program that I've created just to see what it ranks it. Now, I don't know enough about coding to potentially create bias, so this program should have a completely unfiltered, unbiased opinion. When I go to send this report in for evaluation. So, it'll be interesting, to say the least.
Show us.
As for why I was dropped off here, I asked because I wanted to be if I had to come back down here, I had to be safe, somewhere safe. So it was like, okay, can't be with my grandparents. Now I remember these Galactic Federation members. They were hesitant to do so because they could potentially get in trouble. It's just kind of the vibe I got off of them. But
Hello, are you there?
Because whenever incidents like that take place, there's supposed to be some sort of memory fogging to help, prevent trauma from settling in until the person was old enough to start comprehending. But here's the thing. If you're not necessarily dropped off where you were taken from, that's gonna cause you to ask some questions. And I'm too damn stubborn to let certain shit go if I know something went down.
Something strange. And who are you gonna call?
It'll be interesting to see what happens when that experiment, for lack of a better word, in March comes to fruition. Because a couple interesting other things to note. And this involves a couple of incidents that I have not disclosed in this show yet, but there was 3 major events that took place in that very room where I woke up. It's where I appeared after my abduction. And mind you, the distance between Jerome and Murtaugh is about 30 miles as the crow flies. And you gotta cross the canyon. A 6-year-old child could not just sleepwalk himself that way. Within overnight. And nobody see anything. Secondly, yes, I'm going to disclose that I was frequently dropped off at my grandparents for them to babysit me while my mother was at work. So it was not uncommon. And that's what my grandparents assumed. Until my mother called them on the phone, screaming her head off because she had no clue where I was. And my grandparents at the time, they were in about their early to mid 40s. They had the kids young. And my mother, she had me when she had just turned 19, just turned 19, almost was just about to turn 20 that year. So, yeah, so I'm a little late in the game as far as having my own children. Unless, but I digress. Anyway, my grandparents, they were in the early to mid 40s, so at the time they were at the point where, signs of aging started to kick in. And the phone was loud. It was one of those old landline with almost like an office telephone that just reverberated throughout the whole building. So, I don't know. Am I convinced something happened that night? Absolutely. Is it possibly extraterrestrial? Well, makes you wonder if there was some sort of log. Because here in Idaho, the state I'm from, Idaho, has a long history when it comes to UFOs, right? See, the Kenneth Arnold sighting, yeah, that took place in Washington, but he was actually operating out of Boise. And you have a whole slew of UFO sightings that took place here, where I've personally documented mass sightings within the last 5 years. And the city I was born, Twin Falls, has a connection as well to the 1940s UFO boom. And that would be the Twin Falls saucer hoax. Yes, I said hoax. That case has been thoroughly debunked and pretty much is one of the main reasons why the coverage in regards to UFOs started to shut down around that time frame, or at least that's what's commonly cited. However, the sightings haven't stopped. I mean, I believe it was almost 3 years ago, there was actually reports from a police officer working the night shift of various lights flashing around the South Hills. Let's see unless I'm totally directionally inclined, be about that way. Now, we do have several military bases around here. We have bombing test ranges around here. We have a nuclear laboratory up towards Pocatello, INL. So, there's a lot of activity around here that constitutes a lot of the almost cliche for UFO activity. And yours truly, for one reason or another, ended up dead center of it. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I know the audio quality is probably not the best as I am recording this, but this is actually a demonstration of a specialized UFO report scanning application that I developed, currently titled UAP Radar, but that's likely going to change here in the near future. I want to show you guys something that I've been working on, and this is meant to be a tool to basically help sort out all the bullshit that floods UFO phenomenon. And because this video entirely is to discuss my own abduction scenario, I'm actually going to utilize that information to run a quick test of this app to show you its capabilities. Now, before we do that, I'm just going to run through. This is going to help bring up the various reports. In the near future, there's going to be a specialized database that is going to catalog everything that gets put into this. So that is intended for the near future. Now, with what's readily available now, with what works. See, we have a radar map that does not exactly work as well as intended. So there's going to be some modifications to this just to make it more useful. Instead of just looking like a little flight radar, we're going to hopefully try to actually get some sort of map reference put against this radar. Because it still looks kind of cool, I'll admit. So we'll try to keep the look as much as possible, but we're going to have an actual map pinged against it, because this application, when you initially pull it up, it will ask to get your geographic location based on whatever device you're using, whether it's going to be your mobile phone or your computer, to try to find the stuff that is closest to you. That is the key thing. It's meant to try to find the closest reports to you. Future developments may allow it to find reports in other locations. Maybe you want to scout out a place you're going on vacation for. Not really an ideal scenario due to the rapid nature of these events, but just as an example, we have a separate application called Omega Surveillance that I'm not going to show right now, just to try to save us a little bit of time, but that will be part of another broadcast. So going back to UAP radar, we also have a system guide here. Now this system is actually tailored to a rating system to classify UFO and ET encounter reports by a system of my own design. Now this system is not something I just pulled out of my ass. It essentially brings the work of J. Allen Hynek, Jacques Vallée, and it doesn't directly say it on here, but it also includes influences from Dr. Stephen Greer. The purpose is to essentially streamline the UFO rating system that is out there, and also to make it more comprehensive and inclusive to all the matters of high strangeness that often associate these claims. So we're just going to scroll through real quick, show you the system as the rating system as this application recognizes it. It tries to give a few little examples of what may qualify for each rating. And for those of you who know my own background, you may know where some of these, why I chose to go into some of these more evolved stages, like stage 10 is evolution. Now, for this test, we're going to focus on the situation where I was abducted and ended up roughly 30 to 40 miles, depending on which road you took, away from where I was taken. Yes, it is a sort of a needle in the haystack situation, but it's relevant to this video. The child relocated 40 miles from potential abduction site. Now, this took place roughly 2002, and I must give a quick shout out to my friends Elena Danan and Tony Rodriguez for their assistance in helping me just understand what happened with this case and basically walk me through how to better quantify everything that happened, given that it was so long ago and it was only about 2019, 2020, almost to 2022 that I actually started to really fully embrace the UFO side of things, and shit has only gotten weirder ever since. So, so for the time, we're just going to enter 8 p.m. as roughly when this started, so it would have been about when I would go to bed, and we're going to say 12 hours, being that I was relocated and found the very next morning. Now, I'm going to have to add a little bit more detail to this. Right now, you don't have to enter coordinates. I still need to fine-tune a few things. But just for record's sake, we're going to input Jerome, Idaho, United States, where this incident started. Now we have a rough time frame of when this took place, how long it took, blah, 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 blah. You're going to move next to the evidence, which I really should rename these fields. But like I said, this is a test video just to kind of go further into detail about everything that happened that particular night, as well as showcase a few new tools that I am working on developing and going to try to make as readily available to everyone as possible. So this will not be the final build that you see upon release. There will probably be some differences. Now, with this application, we have a voice log feature which allows you to just record it, talk into your microphone, and the AI will automatically fill in the report for you based on your audio log. Now for this case, I already have the report that I used to create the first deep dive of this episode copied into my computer's clipboard, so we're just going to paste it here. We can go through the information right now and even make this a little bigger so it's a little easier to see. This is essentially a basic bullet point list of what all actually happened, all the information I have so far, so on and so forth. Now we move on to the next field, attachments. This is where the user will be able to upload photos, they will upload videos or any documents that they believe will help prove or assess the full situation. Now this is where a couple of the unique features are going to come into play. As you can see, there's a share to UFO radar map already selected. That is the radar map that I showed earlier. Not really working how I want, so we're just going to go ahead and kick that off right now. Save us a little bit of time. However, this application, one of the new features is that it also allows for a deep web witness scan. So when the application is actually analyzing the report as it is given, it is designed to reduce as much bias as possible. I've even anonymized my own details in this application to try to prevent any potential bias. With this application, this will try to dig into UFO reports, any databases, social media accounts. I know not the most reliable, but especially in the age of AI, but you work with what you got, right? So this deep witness scan, it says right here, AI will scour public databases, social media, and news for corroborating reports at this time and location. This is basically to help the users find out if anybody else saw what the hell they saw. So we're going to go ahead and leave that checked, and we're going to hit submit report. Here is what the analysis page looks like so far. Now again, this is designed to not have any potential bias. It's not going to automatically say this is BS. It is going to take the information as it's given and will analyze the reports to see the likelihood that it was anomalous. Now, as you can see here, initiating analysis protocols, this will cross-check civilian and military databases, whatever it's available, to check for any aircraft that may have been in the area at the time. It's going to check celestial charts, where the planets were located, where satellites were located, things like that, to basically try to rule out as many as the common misidentifications as possible. The tools I am developing when it comes to investigation protocols are meant to try to filter out as much of the bullshit that is out there as possible. Now, does this leave room for error? Of course. So what we're going to try to do is, continually work with it, feed it more information, and see where the program needs to be enhanced. Now, looky here. This is interesting. I have already identified a potential error because earlier when I ran this exact same report through the database, through this application, as I presented it, it gave it an 85. Now it dropped it down to 75% confidence rating. So I need to figure out what's going on there. Let's see here. Deep web corroboration matches it found too. It found the case file that was already cited, as well as a string of anomalous reports that were taking place around that same time. So, here's also the list of anomalies that it detected. And we're going to try to take a look and see if it's analysis, because I'm going to admit right now that this report system is not staying consistent, so it's going to need some more work. I see. Now, I do need to correct one little detail here. My father was not incarcerated at the time of this incident. He is incarcerated now due to unrelated crimes. So, this is just a quick little showcase. It is not complete yet, and like I said, there's already some inconsistencies with how it's reporting things, so I'm going to need to look into that for further development.